Ireland is facing a crisis that most politicians refuse to talk about honestly. It's not a war, it's not a financial crash like 2008, and it's not a sudden collapse. It's something quieter and far more destabilizing. Every single week, thousands of people arrive in Ireland without clear housing plans, without jobs, and without long-term integration strategies. Many are asylum seekers, some arrive legally, others don't, but here's the uncomfortable truth no one wants to admit. Ireland didn't prepare for this, economically, socially, or structurally. And now, the pressure is breaking the system. Housing is collapsing. Public services are overwhelmed. The middle class is shrinking. And for ordinary Irish families, life is becoming harder every single year. This is not a story about blaming migrants. This is a story about government failure, economic imbalance, and a country that grew fast without building strong foundations. And in Ireland, it only gets worse. Ireland's image versus reality. For years, Ireland was sold as a miracle economy, a tech hub of Europe, a low-tax paradise, one of the fastest growing economies in the EU. On paper, Ireland looks incredibly rich. GDP per capita is among the highest in the world. Multinational companies dominate the skyline of Dublin. Global giants like Apple, Google, Meta, and Microsoft operate massive offices here. But here's the problem. Ireland's GDP lies. Much of that wealth exists only on balance sheets. It belongs to multinational corporations, not to Irish households. When you strip away corporate accounting tricks, Ireland suddenly looks very different. Wages are stagnant, rent is exploding, public infrastructure lags behind population growth, and the gap between Ireland's image and reality keeps growing. A housing market in free fall. Let's talk about the real crisis. Housing. Ireland is facing one of the worst housing shortages in Europe. In Dublin, average rents have doubled in less than a decade. In smaller cities, prices follow the same trend. Young people can't afford homes. Families are trapped in rentals with no future. And supply? Nowhere near enough. Ireland simply doesn't build enough homes, and hasn't for years. Why? Slow planning processes, high construction costs, land hoarding, overregulation, and a state that relies too heavily on the private sector. As demand rises faster than supply, prices spiral upward, and migration, both legal and illegal, adds massive pressure to an already broken system. Not because migrants are the problem, but because the state never expanded housing to match population growth. Migration without infrastructure. Ireland has always been an emigrant nation. For centuries, Irish people left in search of work. Now, the country is experiencing the opposite. Ireland is becoming a destination. EU free movement. Asylum seekers from conflict zones. Economic migrants. Students. Tech workers. In theory, migration can be a huge economic benefit, but only if the country prepares for it. Ireland didn't. There was no national housing expansion plan, no large-scale public construction program, no serious integration strategy. So what happened? The government began placing migrants in hotels, hostels, emergency shelters, and even sports halls. Meanwhile, Irish citizens struggle to find housing themselves. This creates tension, not because people are hateful, but because scarcity creates conflict. When resources are limited, people turn on each other, and politicians quietly step aside. The collapse of public services housing is only one part of the story. Healthcare in Ireland is under extreme strain. Emergency rooms are overcrowded. Waiting lists stretch for months, sometimes years. Doctors and nurses are leaving the country. Why? Because population growth outpaced investment. More people. Same number of hospitals, same staffing levels, same outdated systems. Schools face similar problems. Class sizes grow. Teachers burn out, temporary classrooms become permanent. Public transport, overcrowded, underfunded, years behind demand. Ireland's population expanded rapidly, but the state never scaled its services. The vanishing middle class. This is where the crisis becomes dangerous. Ireland's middle class is disappearing. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but slowly and permanently. Young professionals earn decent salaries, yet Half their income goes to rent. Home ownership feels impossible. Saving is a luxury. Older generations own property, younger ones don't. This creates a deep generational divide, and when the middle class collapses, something else collapses with it: social stability. A country where people feel stuck becomes politically volatile. The tech bubble illusion: Ireland's economy depends heavily on multinational tech companies. This worked until it didn't. Tech layoffs hit Ireland hard, hiring slowed, office expansions paused, and suddenly thousands of highly paid workers realized something terrifying. Their salaries were high, but their cost of living was even higher. Ireland built its economic model around corporate tax revenue, but that revenue is volatile. If global tax rules change or companies relocate, Ireland faces a massive fiscal shock. The economy looks strong, but it's fragile. Why politicians avoid the truth? So why isn't this discussed openly? Because the truth is uncomfortable. Admitting failure means admitting poor long-term planning, over-reliance on multinationals, neglect of public housing, uncontrolled population growth. Instead, politicians use slogans. They promise more housing, someday, more investment, eventually, more reforms, later. Meanwhile, the crisis deepens, the dangerous path ahead. If nothing changes, Ireland faces a serious risk: rising homelessness, social polarization, youth emigration, again, political radicalization. History shows what happens when living standards fall while elites remain protected. Trust collapses. And once trust is gone, it's incredibly hard to restore. What would actually fix this? Ireland doesn't need miracles. It needs boring, difficult reforms, massive public housing construction, faster planning approvals, infrastructure investment before population growth, honest migration capacity limits, and diversification beyond tech. These solutions aren't popular. They're expensive. They're slow. They require admitting past mistakes. But without them, Ireland remains trapped. Ireland is not collapsing overnight, but it is drifting slowly and quietly into a permanent crisis, a country where work no longer guarantees stability, where young people feel locked out of the future, where growth exists on paper but not in real life. This is not about migrants. This is not about ideology. This is about a system that expanded without foundations. Ireland grew fast, but it didn't grow smart.